And that's what everyone wants to hear at the beginning of the podcast was, welcome to Geeks with Kids. We're back breaking down the final 2 episodes of It, Welcome to Derry. Normally, Brent is here with us, but he's feeling a little under the weather. Maybe we should just send him the notes and then we can just tack it on at the end, because I would love to hear his thoughts on all of this.
Oh, he's been so passionate about this this whole series, you know. And I'm sorry he didn't get to join us tonight for the finale.
And you know how he got that? He predicted that one thing last week or 2 weeks ago, I guess, when we recorded, and it happened this week. So we'll talk about that when we get to the last episode. So these last 2 chapters deliver the season's biggest emotional blows, some major lore payoffs, and direct connections to the wider It mythology. Yes, that's right. Everything collapses and then crystallizes. Tragedy, legacy, and Pennywise fully revealed. Yeah, so let's start with episode 7, The Black Spot. You know, we knew the episode was coming, but I don't think we were really ready for it. So, in 1908, this starts off in 1908 with Bob Gray, Ingrid's father and the original performer behind Pennywise, as he is drawn into the woods by the entity disguised as a child, and then he vanishes without a trace. In present day, the Bowers mob descends on the Black Spot, demanding Hank. When the patrons refuse to hand him over, the mob sets the building ablaze. Amid the chaos, Hallorann, with the help of Sesqui's spirit, manages to save Hank, Ronnie, and Will. Rich, heartbreakingly dies while protecting Marge, who survives the fire. Ingrid arrives wearing her periwinkle costume as Pennywise feeds on the victims inside. The creature kills her husband Stan and reveals the deadlights to Ingrid when she realizes that Pennywise is not actually her father. This leaves Ingrid catatonic. Marge and Ronnie later tell Lily about Rich's death. Lily, increasingly paranoid and emotionally bound to the shard, reacts with fear and detachment. Hallorann senses that Pennywise has entered a dormant state and leads the military to one of the pillars, which they remove. General Shaw later reveals his plans to Leroy to free Pennywise and weaponize its power to control the American population. And then Shaw destroys the pillar. Rose hides Hank, who is believed to be dead, and the episode ends with Pennywise reawakening, appearing at Will's house and abducting him. Oh, that episode was amazing. The Black Spot, which we'd heard a lot about during the book, which I have behind me. You know, look at this prop that I popped there. It's both like historically horrific and supernaturally horrific. What are your thoughts on the chaos of this event and, you know, the horror, both the human horror and the supernatural horror that we see during it?
Yeah. So in all that chaos, I got to first shout out to the VFX production designers and the cinematographers and that for keeping like such control over everything. And that, you know, it's like they were doing like, you know, that continuous shot, you know, amidst all that chaos, you know, once those chains went on the door and that, it's like, that's when my heart really jumped. And then like the Molotovs started coming through, the bullets that were coming through and that, but like, you know, they did a fantastic job showing like, you know, just mixing chaos with a very refined way of keeping like, you know, track of everything that was going on. It was as impressive as it was terrifying, you know, because it was a culmination of all the stuff that, you know, had been built up and that all that racial tension mixed in with the, you know, the supernatural horror in the background. They all just kind of came together in this, like, you know, literally an explosive climax.
Yeah. I was just saying, what did you think of? So all of this chaos is happening. Everyone's like getting shot. They're getting burnt from the flames. And then all of a sudden you see this silhouette of a clown appear and, you know, offer help to a woman there. What did you think of just the appearance of Pennywise during this moment?
Oh, it's like I said, it's the shockingness of like, you know, something that was very real, especially for that time period and that, you know, with the violence towards the Black community. And it mixed in with the Pennywise, it was just surreal. It was hard to really capture into words, how it really felt, but it was terrifying, as it was fascinating to watch, like him in the smoke and that, it just, unfazed and doing his little Pennywise, side shuffle up to her, offering her hand and that, and then to have Ronnie turn around and just look him right in the eye and that as he's feeding on that poor woman.
And then he had the best line of the episode. Do I have
Do
face?
I have face?
On my
On my
face?
face?
Oh my God. It was such, like Bill Skarsgård, his performance is so good. And like, he was amazing in the movies, but I think he elevated Pennywise in this series to like a whole new level. Like there's moments of goofiness, but we know that Pennywise likes to play with his food, but it's like terrifying, like camp. It's like unlike anything I've seen. Like he did a phenomenal job with the voice, the mannerisms, everything. It's just a little bit off, like always, and he's just like, oh, terrifying.
Yeah, it's that thing about like something that's pretending to be a person. Yeah, it's just a puppet guise that he wears.
Yeah,
he can barely keep it together. He can barely pull it off. Like actually trying to look and sound like a human being, and that which is where you get the whole laughter and the way he says everything and that. It's almost like the creature's having trouble even vocalizing itself.
yeah.
But no, he's been knocking it out of the park in that. I loved how they built it up, not having Pennywise join the cast until episode 5, the halfway mark, and then every appearance afterwards has been like the highlight of the episode. 5, like him appearing in the sewers in 5, in 6, I believe, is when we were introduced to him in the basement of the hospital.
Yeah.
When he meets Mrs. Hirsch and that, for, I guess I don't know how many times they had actually seen each other since he disappeared.
I don't think he really saw her until that moment, and then that's when he started. Well, I guess we'll find out. We'll find out in the next season.
Rumors from children, right? The children in the hospital were saying a clown was trying to get them to come down to the basement, and it's something in her just knew, but yeah. It's so good. I mean, and then his confrontation with Dick Hallorann in the black spot was just the framing, everything was just so good.
Dickie. Oh, I love the way he says,
I think they can see you. I think they can.
Speaking of Dick Hallorann, like he's the one who realized that the fridge is leaking, so he could kick out the floorboards underneath, and then his buddy dies helping him. But he notices the chaos going on around him. But he also sees the spirit of Seski, who was the first chief or warrior who, went up against it.
Pennywise.
Or not even Pennywise at that point, right?
Yeah, at that time, yeah. No,
entity.
It.
What did you think of Hallorann having to break his, he had to actually talk to a spirit, which means that all the spirits noticed him. Like he had to do it to save people.
Yeah, because he had warned. It's like he would warned like this at some point that it's like he doesn't talk to them in that, because once you talk to them, then they know you're there, and then they all come crawling out. And like at this point, like Pennywise had already broken his box and that, and let out every bad like spirit he had encountered that he imprisoned there out. But this, making contact with Seski and that, but inviting her in also invited everything else in that, and that's when we get that epic shot of Pennywise and that, with all the dead behind him and that, including what I'm guessing is the little boy from the gasworks explosion.
Oh, I didn't even notice.
It's the headless corpse that was smoking beside him, and that's the little boy from the gasworks explosion.
Oh man, I didn't even notice. Yeah. That's crazy. Yeah. I'm gonna have to rewatch it. Although this scene does hurt my heart. I don't even think that scene's as scary as when he's telling Leroy later, and then he sees, like, you see his friends all dead beside him, just being like, help me. I'm like, oh my God, that would be terrifying. But I think the most emotional, and definitely the part that made me tear up the most, was Rich. right? His death and his him saving Marge. Well,
Yep.
we knew it was gonna happen because he's just too pure for the
Yep.
show to to survive. What
Oh
did
yeah.
you think of it?
Oh my God. The internet has been showing such love to that character ever since that happened. It's been crazy, basically they're calling him the GOAT, uh, the greatest of all time. And it's true because it was such a heartbreaking moment in that, opening up that it was smart, right? Seeing the turned over fridge, right? I believe that's what
Yeah,
it was.
yeah,
Yeah, it
yeah.
was
It was.
definitely, yeah, it was the fridge. Yeah. Then telling her and that she has to get in first and knowing that there's not enough room. It was the Jack and Rose moment of the show,
Yeah,
really,
it really
wasn't it?
was.
But like just
Except
him
Rose had more
talking.
space. I'm just throwing that out.
I know.
They wouldn't have supported their weight. I know,
Oh,
but
please! I hope they don't MythBuster this thing. It's like there would have been room in the fridge for both of them.
they did
Come
that
on.
with Indiana Jones and the fridge. So
Yeah.
maybe they'll do it with this fridge thing. But yeah. It the moment was.
But him on top of the fridge and that he pinning himself on top because she knew she was going to force that open and that
Mhm.
to try and save him, uh, and then telling her about like the first time he noticed her at school and that he fell in love with her then, and it's just like
Oh,
it, and knowing he died of smoke inhalation, but knowing that he wasn't afraid and that's why Pennywise didn't eat him.
yeah. Isn't that amazing?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, his pure sacrifice is the reason why he was kept alive. I'm so glad that
Yeah.
I knew they weren't going to do this, but I didn't want to see him burnt. I'm glad they
Yeah.
didn't do that because
I
that would have
know.
been too much for me. I think it would have been too much for the audience. Um,
Yeah.
oh, it makes me tear up just thinking about it because he was such the idea of knights and maidens, and he kept on talking about that with Marge,
Yep.
and it was just and the look on his face, like this kid actor was phenomenal, just phenomenal, and I hope like he gets way more, stuff. Oh,
Oh my God, he could totally build a whole career off just that with the momentum like behind this show. It's
give
crazy.
give that kid
Like
an
I said,
Emmy.
the love for him on the social media has been crazy, well deserved, but it's so heartening to see that.
Yeah,
Everybody was bursting into tears watching that
I
scene.
don't doubt that.
Yeah.
Part of me wishes that we did like live reacts as we watch this, but I didn't want to cry that much on a TV show. We did that with The Last of Us in the first season. I don't need to do that
I know.
again.
Yeah. No, I don't need that anymore.
Let's talk about Ingrid's tragic realization and the Deadlights affair, which I'm very surprised that she did not realize that Pennywise wasn't her father, fully her father. I assume that she maybe thinks that he's trapped inside there and this is a way to get him out. But she finally realizes that Pennywise is Pennywise, and then he totally breaks her with the deadlights. What do you think of, her realizations a bit too late? Is it weird that she realized this so late? I guess there's 27 years in between, so I don't know how much she would have thought about this. I don't know.
I mean, our friend Steve had a maxim regarding certain horror movies and that kids are stupid and that. Well, I think the opposite is true for this series is that adults are basically the stupid ones throughout the entirety of the show and that their motivations in that in regards to Pennywise and it are just like beyond comprehension. It's like her thinking that this thing was her father, at least her father being maybe trapped within the creature. This is why she was so hell-bent on appearing as Periwinkle in front of him and that, because she thought that somehow he might disentangle himself from this,
Mhm.
and return to her, which is again, my maxim for Welcome to Derry has been adults are stupid. Not all adults, but pretty much anyone's in a position of authority.
Well, I think the people
stupid.
I think the people that are there have been there for years are, and they say this in the book or in the movie, that there's sort of this fog in their brain that they don't really remember. And you see this at the end of next episode that everything's just back to normal after it's all done, right? Everything's just going to be forgotten, or at least people are going to be like, oh, well, that was a weird day, wasn't it? Something shitty happened, but they're just going to move on. But there's always been this like, well, this is what things are here. And then it just sort of goes into a numbness in their brain. And I think that's sort of, and we know that Pennywise like sheds in the water. So there's this like thing that he has over them. I like that there's that metaphor of it devouring or not devouring the town, but sort of covering the town in this fog in the next episode, and which we'll talk about in a couple minutes.
But I do get what you mean about the fog, because you see it like constantly. And it chapter 1, it's like when Georgie's brother, what's his name? Bill?
Bill, yeah.
Yes. Yeah, Bill. And that was trying to show the dad and that, like
the sewers.
The sewers and that, and the father just shut it down and that, because it's like it's something, it's not even, it's verboten. You can't even talk about it with him or anybody else in the town. Bev's father, and that was obviously, but you can see it throughout the entirety of adults in this town. Is that it's a darkness that covers them, and then we know it's a creature's effect on the entirety of the town, and that it's this darkness that blankets their emotions, blankets their memories. It distorts everything, because it just wants to keep its I was thinking about like the 27-year cycle, by the way, and that
I was too.
Yeah, and I realized at some point it's because the creature knows that its food source is limited, and it doesn't want to diminish it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really good. That's really smart.
Yeah.
So he's not always eating the same generation. Like there's always in between to make more kids and stuff. Oh yeah, that's really neat. My thinking, I was thinking this is totally off, like in a different tangent. I always wonder what it's like for kids and parents in the safe times. Like there's always a heightened sense of anger and like resentment during the right before the event happens, right? The 27-year event. So I wonder, like, if Bill's father was talking to Bill earlier, would he have, maybe been more receptive with it? Like he went straight to anger. And I know that's understandable for someone who's lost a child, but I wonder if he would have been like, you know what, maybe this is something we should bring to the police. Or like it just went straight to the full on anger at him. I don't know. It's hard to tell with that.
It's like if adults after, the cycle ends and that, do they change? Do they kind of go back to normal? Like it's an interesting question.
Well, especially since we saw that episode earlier where there was that kid getting beaten on the street. Like are kids, are they always just gonna be like, oh, shit happens? Yeah.
Boys will be boys, and it's like, it's basically somebody's being killed on the street and it's like, boys will be boys.
I guess the boys in the losers club were always beat on. So maybe they are just sort of douches all the time. I don't know. The Ingrid thing again though. It was interesting to watch Pennywise sort of turn and be like, do the bow. And you're like, I don't know if he's playing with her or if he's giving something to her so that she keeps helping him. But that was an interesting moment for me.
Yeah. I kind of sussed it out a little later in that, it was because, at that moment, like he didn't detect anything off her that he was interested in that, because, she was overjoyed to see him, thinking it was her father and that, and it's like, it's like he likes to play with his food, but none of his food is not the right seasoning, right?
Yeah.
So that's when she went up and hugged him in that, it's like he could see his face kind of visibly, he changed in that. And that's when he started to get really sleepy. He wasn't interested in her as food, but it was after the turn when she grabbed his arm and that, and she was all panicked in that because he was leaving and that. That's when the fear kicked in, and that's when his senses started going off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I do like that he did the deadlights instead of eating her, because that way he could use her later. That's what I took it from. Like she's going to be broken more having seen them. I don't know. I guess I feel like adults take it a little bit harder but Rich gets it in chapter 2. I don't know. I feel like this whole event, including the deadlights, broke her. That's why she's in the asylum at the end.
Yeah. It's basically like Billy Powers and that in the first movie and that when the creature exposed him to the deadlights and that, and it just broke his brain. And so it's the same thing with Kirsch. Yes, maybe he does like keep her around just because that she was helpful at the time, especially as a nurse, and like she had access to children and that, and she, she brought one down to him. I wonder if she brought more to him after that.
For sure.
Hoping to see the father again.
Yeah, for sure. We talked about the human violence versus Pennywise's terror. I still think that the chaining and all of that was a little bit more scary than Pennywise going in there and eating people, because you know how real it is. But let's move over to Shaw and his inevitable turn. We all knew it was going to happen.
Yes.
Did we know what was going to happen? No, but his idea is very Cold War rooted, right? The idea that the way to control the masses is to make them scared, like have them, you know, obey through fear. And oh my God, when he said that they would let him loose and then that they could sort of control it, maybe, I did not understand his logic. And I don't know if this was it sort of manipulating his brain, but I think that there was something already there. Maybe he was a little broken from when he was a kid. What do you think?
I mean, that's a good point, right? Again, I go back to my whole thing about how adults are basically stupid.
Oh yeah, they so dumb.
In regards to this creature, I don't know, like, you know, because like, you know, at first, like, you know, it was he as he framed the plan, it was like this could be a way more powerful weapon, you know, for our enemies. Yeah, yeah, and it's like if they could, you know, it's like, okay, you know, they're gonna maybe cage it up, maybe make a rolling cage and just drop them like a
that would
nuclear
have made
bomb.
sense.
Yeah, but no, it has to do with the civil rights movement and that equal rights for women and that. You know, he said, I want to prevent rioting and that. You know, we want to suppress that. You know, because that's what's ruining America, and we want to keep America controlled through fear and that. You know, which is, you know, a very classic military theme. But you know, in the fact that they were going to use a supernatural entity in that and just let it loose, you know, with like no way of like being able to control it. They thought like the control aspect. I don't understand why he thinks that the creature would somehow obey or respond to them. You know, it was just hubris. But maybe that's the point of the character. It was that hubris of America, you know, and the top level of military,
especially at that time too.
At that time, yes, you know, it was just
like
it was win at win at any expense as far as that goes.
What's sad is that his plan to like the one he told Hanlon earlier about pushing the pillars in closer to contain it, like that's a good plan, which I don't understand why they didn't do in this show. But you know, I guess we did understand. We saw how hard it was to even put down that one shard. But like that was a good idea. Putting it in closer to, oh my God. Oh, frustrating.
Then what does he do? He destroys one of the pillars, and that just takes a bar off the cage.
And then they lose another chance to, you know, like, to save people, right? The shard was there to help people. It could have like repelled lots of attacks, but you know, I guess it ultimately led to the defeat of Pennywise / birth of Pennywise. But we'll talk about that right now because we're going to move on to episode 8, which, you know, episode 7 burnt everything down, literally and emotionally. But episode 8 asks, you know, what survives during all of this. This episode is called Winter Fire. Do you know the reason why it's called Winter Fire?
I mean, it has to do with like in chapter 1 and that the postcard that what's his face sends to Bev and that your hair is winter fire.
Yeah, that is exactly why. Isn't that such a clever? I remember seeing the title. I was like, oh, that's neat. So let's talk about the finale.
Yeah.
A thick, unnatural fog rolls over Derry as Pennywise murders the school principal, who he marionettes, and draws most of the town's children into the school auditorium, just not the upperclassmen. They're not flavorful enough.
Exactly.
There he hypnotizes them, does his awesome little dance, and begins to lead them away one by one, like the Pied Piper. Ronnie, Lily, and Marge follow in pursuit, while Pennywise taunts Leroy over Will's capture. Desperate, Leroy turns to Hallorann for help. With Rose's specially prepared tea from the root of Maturin, Hallorann quiets the voices in his head, closes that door, and opens a new one, and uses abilities to track Lily's dagger. Pennywise deliberately isolates Marge, sensing that her future son, Richie Tozier, and his friends will one day be instrumental in his defeat. Hallorann freezes Pennywise long enough for Will and the other children to be freed as the rest of the group arrives. General Shaw and the military intervene, killing Taniel and detaining the adults. Pennywise kills Shaw and pursues the children as they attempt to restore the supernatural cage. The adults eventually overpower the soldiers and open fire on Pennywise, slowing him down just enough for Rich's spirit to appear and help complete the ritual, imprisoning Pennywise once more. In the aftermath, Rich is laid to rest. Ronnie and Will share a quiet kiss before she leaves Derry with Hank, and Hallorann departs to begin a new life as a hotel chef.
Yes.
Charlotte and an honorably discharged Leroy remain in town, while Ingrid is institutionalized. I didn't write this down, but Charlotte and Leroy purchased the farm that Rose sells.
Yes.
And that's the sheep farm that we see in It Chapter 1.
Yeah.
The episode closes with a flash forward 26 years into the future. Ingrid, who had witnessed the deadlights, is institutionalized and witnesses the suicide of Elfrida Marsh and meets her young daughter Beverly, telling her, well, you know what they say about the dead in this town. They're not really gone. Yeah. The dead aren't really gone, which is the line she said in the movie, firmly linking the series of events to it. I didn't mention this, but Marge talks to Lily about how Pennywise talked to her about the future and how Pennywise sees time not as a line but as a circle, a flat circle. So the beginning is the end is the beginning. He sees everything happen. He moves forward and backwards in time. He's a fifth dimensional being, right? Yeah. So he sees time differently. Well, anyway, so I wanted to make sure I said that before we move in. So the beginning of the episode, the fog and the mass hypnosis. We see a giant fog going over the town, and it immediately brings up some interesting comparisons to other Stephen King literature. What do you think of this?
When I saw that, I got spoiled a little bit because I saw half a second of the trailer and I saw that part and I was like, oh, just stop the trailer. Because I knew exactly what that fog was.
This is why I don't watch trailers. You got to join me in the no trailer train.
I really got to. And I have to stay off social media when there's a show I really like and they're doing trailers and spoilers and that because like it's just not worth it. You know, it's best to come into these things fresh. But The Mist. The big callback to The Mist, you know. And I remember after I saw that movie, a friend of mine was telling me, like, you know, this, you know, when that first came out, and that he said, like, you know, like all Stephen King books are related to the same place, right? And I was like, really? Yeah. And he's like, yeah.
No, so I'm agreeing with him.
yeah. So basically, like Pennywise is connected to that storyline, and that as you know, because basically he's wherever they tapped into that, you know, that dimensional portal in The Mist, that's exactly where Pennywise is from.
So for those who haven't read the books, there is this extra interdimensional there's this dimension called the Prim, and that's where the monsters from The Mist, and that's where Pennywise has come from. There's also like oh my god, this is too much. I don't know if I can go into all of this. This is all, if you don't like the multiverse because of the MCU and everything that's happening right now in television movies, realize that Stephen King has been doing it since the 70s, and he's been doing it way better. His books are all very much interconnected. Me and Brent have talked about this so much. I don't even know if we talked about it on the show or just off the show, but the idea that that different beings are like across different dimensions, and like there's a dark dimension, and then there's a turtle god that's like sort of the embodiment of the opposite of what it is, a Turin, which we talk about a little bit. It's a giant turtle god.
Who carries the universe on his back, basically.
Sort of. That's a Tuin, which is from Discworld, but you know, same-ish type thing. I don't know where I was going with this. You were talking about The Mist. Yes, and the shop, which is sort of what this military organization sort of is a prototype for, although the shop seems to be more good at their job. Although sort of bad, since they brought the creatures in to that. They're the reason who they opened the portal in The Mist for the monsters to come in. So I guess they're not always good, but they're good.
They're not. They keep pushing the boundaries and that, you know, and they think they can control every supernatural thing. You know, this is like what they were doing in Firestarter. You know, they thought they could weaponize that little girl and make her into their own little nuclear bomb. But if they couldn't, and that I remember the one guy saying, "When I kill her, I will absorb her power." Like crazy guy that George C. Scott played in the movie.
There's always a crazy general, right?
Yep.
In the shop. I don't know. I don't know if that's just him writing the. Oh, see, actually, all of Stephen King's military uses. There's always one crazy general, like the Long Walk. I mean, that's just sort of
the Dreamcatcher, which I just finished.
Yeah,
I did watch it. Yeah, it was pretty good. I mean, like there were things I think they could have definitely done better with it, and that as far as direction.
It was early 2000s. I'm just throwing that out there.
It was. Yep. But again, crazy general played by Morgan Freeman.
Also, Mr. Gray and Mr. Gray. So that creature in Dreamcatcher, people are saying maybe is also from the same, like from the Prim as well, and maybe related to Pennywise. A lot of people are thinking
that's an interesting theory, actually.
Yeah. Because he calls himself Mr. Gray in there, and then Bob Gray as well. There's talks about how maybe Pennywise is a offshoot of the Crimson King from the Dark Tower, because they're all from like that sort of type. The Crimson King is also like the devil-ish person in the Stephen King universe. Oh my God, we could talk about the Stephen King stuff forever. But before we do that, we talked about everything about the mist and the mass hypnosis. I think I love the idea that we saw it at the beginning when everyone was just sort of running in scared, and all the adults were just sort of taken over by it. Like you saw that one girl go into the store and be like, "What's going on?" And then she turns around and she has the Pennywise face. Like they're just sort of there. They don't intervene. They can't intervene, right? Because they're sort of taken over by Pennywise, which I like. But I also like that the newest people of the adults, and then Rose, who's from a tribe that has fought it, are the ones that can resist
the hypnosis. Yes.
Yeah. I don't know. I just thought that was really interesting.
I mean, the whole opening was so interesting. I mean, the song, the dance, the fact that they used the principal as a puppet, and then ripped his head off, and then just punts it right into a window, and then throws the body one-handed into the crowd, and that just to sing its song. The deafening roar coming out of its mouth when it hits that last bar.
Yes.
Oh
yeah.
God,
the imagery, just this whole episode had the perfect imagery for everything. The idea that Pennywise wanted to be a Pied Piper of sorts, just playing his tuba in his little cart with all this line of children floating behind him, like terrifying, but also slightly hilarious. Like he's not doing this for anyone except for himself. Like he's truly a little fucked, right? I love that. I love that he's just like, I'm having fun. I'm gonna fuck up with these kids and I'm gonna eat them because they're delicious. This is my road snack meal.
It's not just about food for him in that. It's the fun in that. He loves hunting. He loves causing chaos and fear. Yes, he was having a ball knowing he could take this circus act of his on the road, literally.
Amazing. The one thing I thought we were going to see this episode, and I was going back and forth about it, and then Rose said this tea is made from the root of maturin, and my brain was like, we're going to see a giant fucking turtle now. What did you think of the sort of spiritual trip that Hallorann goes through, like him closing a door to finally quiet down the spirits, but to gain this control over the Shining that I don't think he had really before?
Probably not. No, I mean, he was taught things and that by his grandmother about how to control it and how to, it's like when there was particularly troublesome spirits, he was taught how to lock them away and that. But Pennywise basically just destroyed all that and left him vulnerable to his gift. And you see that theme come up a lot, in The Shining and Doctor Sleep and here and that. The only way that they knew how to cope with it was through drugs and alcohol and that, just to try it, But at this point for Dick, I mean, that wasn't even working anymore. And that, we see Dick in this episode, and that it's in the worst place possible when he's thinking of unaliving himself because it's like he just can't take it. He has the dead just breathing on his neck, literally. And it's too much.
It's brutal. It's brutal.
So the fact that that she offers him the root of maturin, I missed that part. I didn't even catch that the name of the root.
Yeah.
So now it makes a whole lot more sense.
It also makes me wonder if that, how Mike goes through a same sort of, spiritual thing, and so does his friend. I can't remember which one. Professor X.
Bill. It was Bill.
Bill?
Wait, let's see.
No, not Bill.
Yeah,
it was Bill.
Bill. Yeah, it was Bill. Yeah,
Bill.
Bill's the first one to arrive back. He connects with Mike. I noted similar, like, the way they filmed it, and like, with the visual effect of what it was like when these kind of drugs take over, and that very similar.
Yeah, except they don't have the Shining, so they don't go through the whole thing, but they do see some things. They're just not as potent as someone with the Shine. I like that it all sort of culminates into him being able to disguise himself and sort of manipulate Pennywise into into this scenario where he's playing Bob Gray again, right? And the circus master's like, no, you've just been drinking too much, and you can see that it's fucking with Pennywise's brain a little bit, because he's like, I'm not that. I'm the eater of worlds. I'm blah, blah. He goes on that spiel that he gives to the kids in chapter 2. And there's something just so delightful in seeing Pennywise sort of be, put off guard, because it doesn't happen ever.
No, definitely does not. He was almost powerless in this world and that. But again, it's it was a control that Dick managed to gain by drinking the tea, but also a trick he learned from Pennywise himself, because you see Pennywise does this all the time. It's basically manipulates reality and traps people in like one of their worst memories or their worst fears and that. But for him, he was very selective about it. Like, taking on the disguise of the ringmaster in this illusion he was creating. Pennywise, like, not having any fear or any intimidation over these people, and being physically seemingly very powerless. It was only until after he saw through the illusion that he kind of regained his power back. But it was such a neat trick.
It was amazing. Before that is when he's Pennywise is talking to Marge. He's playing with his food. He pulls her away from the rest of the kids, right? And he talks about the time thing, which we had mentioned earlier. He doesn't see time in a straight line. He talks about how Marge is going to have a son. He calls her Marge Tozier, which when I saw it, my jaw dropped, and I was like, oh my God. Because Brent had said earlier that maybe Marge is Rich's dad.
Richie's, yeah.
And then
Rich's mother, yeah.
And he names him after her first love, which obviously is the thing that happened. Oh my God, that just breaks my brain. But he talks about how her son is going to be part of the group that destroys her or makes brings about his birth. He doesn't see the birth could be the death, could be the birth, could be the death. So this is both a sequel and a prequel. What do you think of this whole idea of, and Stephen King does this all the time. He loves playing with time. I don't know if you've seen 11/22/63, where it's a book, but it's also a miniseries that was released in like 2013, 2014 with James Franco.
Mid 2010s. Yeah, I do remember it coming out. Never got a chance to watch it, so might be something I can add to the list.
I'll let you watch it. But it's about how there's this moment where a teacher is given the ability to go back in time, and his goal is to save President Kennedy. Right? Yeah. It's an interesting show. I never read the book, but I really sort of want to after seeing the show. Yeah, what do you think of this whole time loop / backwardsness, or I don't even know how to explain this time.
I think you basically covered it before in that when you mentioned about time being a flat circle. If I can, quote True Detective, time is a flat circle. And again, we're dealing with, like, as you said, a being from another dimension. It's like that dimension it comes from could be fourth dimensional, could be fifth dimensional.
I think they say it's fifth dimensional.
And one of the things I learned after reading Descend by Cixin Liu, and the third book in the Three Body Problem, is that Basically, when you're a being like that, like say fifth dimensional, looking down on say a three-dimensional plane, and that
Mhm.
you're not looking at it the same way you would with the eyes that you have in the
Yeah.
third dimension. And that basically, like a fourth dimensional being looking down on us, sees not just like say like my face or that. They'd see how every vessel of every blood vessel, every like artery, everything works. You get the complete
Hmm.
picture, not just the surface. And this is why Pennywise can sees his life in this way, and that he's a fifth dimensional being in a three-dimensional reality, and that it's seeing like and for him it's like the beginning is the end is the beginning. But also what's frightening is that he also realizes that there's a possibility in that he can also change these events because he can see them. Which is why he was interested in Marge, because Marge, being the mother of Rich in the future, who is part of the Losers Club, who
Yeah.
kills him, in that this could be a chance to basically change uh, fate,
Yeah.
his destiny.
Yeah. And maybe the possibilities of this are endless, especially with this sort of moving time backwards and forwards. Um, I love it. I love it so much for an idea for a TV show, because I know a lot of people were really annoyed that we get the Hanlons. We like like Star Wars, people are always like, oh yeah, there's always the same people all the time, right? And this people we were like, well, welcome to Derry. We should have gotten different people. We don't always have to talk about the Hanlons or the Marshes or the Toziers and stuff, right? But
Hmm.
I like the idea that because it doesn't view time in one way, he's actually targeting these people. That's the reason why we get these people, is because those are the people that he needs to stop so that he doesn't die or be born. That's a thing. But I like that idea. I like the idea that maybe in the next cycle we'll see a different set of like ancestors that he's targeting, because
Hmm.
that's the way he can save himself itself. I don't know. I like that. I think that's very interesting.
Yeah, it definitely sets up like a lot of tension for the next two seasons coming up, right?
And
And
yeah.
interesting, like who we can meet in the next season.
Uh,
We know from Andy Machete himself that uh, they're going to be new characters, but he said there's going to be characters from season one, who are younger versions of themselves, who we will see. So
Makes sense.
yeah, yeah.
Younger Rose, obviously Rose's, or at least Rose's people and Rose are probably going to be very important. I
Hmm.
I don't know who else I'm very interested to see. I would love to see like Bowers actually be like important. Like being the
Hmm.
I would like to see some of the asshole people be like important for the next season.
Yeah.
Oh my god, I love this show so much. Uh, um so the military interference at the end, and Shaw's hubris, his downfall. Like, it's crazy that Shaw went up to it, like when it was frozen, and then just sort of was fine with him, like talking to him. And he took off his hat, as it looked like he was respecting him. He took off his hat. He was
Yeah.
like, "You can go."
Yeah.
There was
Go.
something so eerie about him being like, this is your playground, go for it. And
Yeah.
then obviously it sniffs and's like, I recognize that smell. I always remember a smell. And then he puts on the face that terrified Shaw's
Hmm.
boy. And then Shaw, in I don't know why, he threatens it. Right? Like there's a moment of fear, but then there's a moment of anger right after it. And that's when Pennywise strikes and kills him.
Yeah.
This interaction was amazing and just the perfect comeuppance. What did you think of this?
I'm so glad it happened after like that last episode, and that because like again, like Shaw did not appear the was not the person that we initially thought he was, in that because he seemed so progressive throughout the show, and that he's very respectful and like appreciative of Hanlon and Hallorann, you know um that we thought, and given his experience with the creature as a boy, we have thought like, his top priority in that would at least be containing this. It's like, you could kind of forgive him for the hubris up to that point, but then when he announced that he was just going to let the creature out to control the rest of America through fear, make small sacrifices for the greater good, basically children. This is why he approached the thing with so much confidence in that. He thought, its primary, objective was, children. He thought like he was safe for some reason, and that aiding him in this, in his want to be free, and that would somehow, leveled them.
Or
at
gain
some point.
favor for him or something.
Who knows? But at the same
The
time,
logic. Adults are stupid.
Adults are stupid in the show. But no, he just didn't know what he was dealing with, and he finds out, it's nothing you can be reasoned with. It's, at its core, it is an animal, it has a need, and it just wants to keep fulfilling that need over and over and over again.
I remember hearing this in a military movie, but when generals are always like, the might of the U.S. military will be that. That's what it felt like. And he was like, you know what? We're strong enough. We can take over. We know we can handle this. No, there's no way.
No.
And that came back to bite him in the head, literally.
Children had to basically clean up his mess. Come on.
Yeah, exactly. So we had a lovely moment of Rich last episode. We thought that was the last we saw of him.
I know.
But we see Hallorann looking off into the distance, and he sees Sesqui out there. And then we see a little spirit, and Sesqui like lets him go. Who is it? It's Rich doing the best run over, giving Pennywise the bird, and just,
being the extra set of hands, and that they needed to push the dagger into the ground. Yeah.
And them realizing that his hands were on their shoulders and helping them.
Yep.
What a beautiful moment. What'd you think of this?
Well, first up, like that entire scene, like the cinema, like everybody goes on, oh, they must have blew their budget on this scene or that scene. No, this is where the budget got blown, was this entire thing.
The bat sequence?
The bat sequence was, and even up to that was like, the whole thing was like eerily beautiful, like, from the get-go, and that the frozen lake and that the darkness and the mist covering everything, and that just seeing Pennywise running and skipping. He was skipping to the goal line basically to get free, and it was all so fascinating to watch. But yeah, it was, to see him like, in his last desperate attempt to get to the kids before they can plant the bar into his cage, and that like transforming into this giant hell beast bat thing.
Oh my God.
And it looked good.
It was brilliant.
Yeah. Big shout out to the VFX department.
I mean, they did an amazing little bat baby earlier, but this was like giant, crazy, like bat out of, like you said, bat out of hell. Like it was amazing. And the shot of them pushing down the spear as he's right behind them. Yep. If I wasn't going to be scared of that every time I turned on my computer, that would be my background. Like that is an epic shot. I hope someone does a VFX breakdown, because that looked amazing. Oh, but also tear, because Rich helping. I was so, him giving the bird to Pennywise made me so happy, and such like his spiritual successor in Marge's son. Like Rich would have done that too, right? Yeah, that's what I love about like they like. It felt so right for this character named Rich to do that to Pennywise. Oh my God, it was so good. That kid's amazing.
Yeah.
But we can also move forward to his funeral. An amazingly sad moment. Marge has a beautiful speech, and we see that Rich is there comforting his friends, comforting his parents, and then Hallorann goes over and talks to his parents.
That hand you feel on your shoulder.
Oh my God. Could you imagine like if you like that is the those are the words you need to hear when you lose someone. Like that's beautiful. I like that Hallorann has come into his power, and he's not afraid to use it. Like when his grandmother helped him, but he was afraid of his power. This is him very sort of accepting it and moving forward with it. And we do see him way more powerful with it in The Shining and Dr. Sleep. What do you think of Hallorann like accepting himself, I guess, in this moment?
It was a lot like Dr. Sleep, and that like that kind of road that Danny went through in that, from childhood into his early adulthood and that, and then on and that, because we know that the power in that, even after Mr. Hallorann showed him like the tricks and that, we know Danny succumbed to alcoholism and drug abuse and that, and it was in a quite a way to quiet the voices and the images of the dead in his head. And we get that with Dick throughout the entire season. And that it was it's like he was he always seemed very confident, but I don't think he'd ever been tested like this as far as his abilities. So yeah, to see him kind of wind up the way Danny did, like when we meet Danny, like in The Shining and that, or not The Shining, sorry, in Doctor Sleep, as he does palliative care work, and he's helps people who are dying and that to cross over peacefully. They've reminded me a lot of like that journey.
Yeah,
it was nice to see, but again, it just whet my appetite because I really want to see more adventures of Dick Hallorann now.
Well, I mean, at the end, he's talking to Leroy. Speaking of, wait, when Leroy was shooting the gun and then he ran out of bullets and then Charlotte ran over to him, I was like, oh shit, Pennywise is going to kill Charlotte. But no, she doesn't die. She was the person I expected to die just because Leroy's sort of a dick in chapter 1.
Yep.
Nope. I guess something happens in between those 27 years. Interesting. When he's talking to, when Hallorann is talking to Leroy at the end, he's like, what are you going to do? I want to know about the kids. He's like, oh, I guess we're really friends now. And he's like, I'm going to move over to London. He said London. I did watch the scene again, but he says Boston and London. And he said, my friend has a hotel. So I don't know where the hotel is, but he talks about both London and Boston, which is interesting because the Outlook is in the Appalachian Mountains, I think. Where's the Outlook?
Yeah, it's like, I've always thought Colorado. I mean, I think that might be the actual location of the Overlook, is in Colorado somewhere. But Boston, you know what the London thing could be a reference to?
What?
Stanley Kubrick. The London reference could be a reference to Stanley Kubrick,
Interesting.
Yeah, I remember we talked like before in that about like, it's like how Stephen King never liked Kubrick's The Shining. Because he changed the ending. It's like he took liberties with it and that. And he'd always had like kind of a bug up his butt about it. But in recent years, especially with the help of Mike Flanagan and that, it's like he's
Mike Flanagan.
He softened his view on it, and it's almost like it's reincorporated back into the Stephen King universe now, the actual movie itself.
And you're right, it is Colorado. Mount Quelo is where it's supposed to take place. Good to know. Yeah. I like
so we can avoid going there.
I mean, I would 100% be down to watch Welcome to the Outlook. Right? Oh, the Overlook. Sorry, my bad. Not Outlook.
Overlook,
the Overlook.
I get it though. Yeah.
Like Hallorann, phenomenal actor. Probably the best, if not like maybe Rich is a little bit better. I don't know. I just like Rich a little bit more right now.
I mean, as one person on social media said, like in that, like basically Dick Hallorann has been like the main character of this show. He's gotten as much screen time or more than the kids have.
That's fair.
In the series.
Yeah. And his story is quite important to this chapter, at least. So that makes sense. But seeing him move over the Overlook. Oh my God, why do I keep saying that? Would be incredible. I hope somehow they do that because he needs to do this role forever.
I know.
But not Wolverine forever. Do it for the next number of years.
Give him at least a series on his own. That would be amazing.
A mini-series, just one.
Yeah. Just one season would be fantastic, just to see like, what happens in that, because it's like you can tell like even in The Shining, like with Hallorann's, with Dick Hallorann and that, and Scatman Crothers' performance and that, the guy's seen some things, he's happy, he's very happy in that, but like his conversations with Danny is like so serious and that it's like no reason for you to go into room 237, so just stay out.
Yeah. That'd be interesting in how he discovers. Oh, come on, make the show. Just make the show. I don't know how old he's supposed to be in The Shining, but he doesn't look much older, right? I feel like he might be 10 years older ish.
I would say there's at least 18 years if we're kind of going like, if we're basing it around timeline wise and that, there's at least 8 years. Yeah, because that movie was what, 80, I think.
Yeah, or 80. I feel like 80's right. I'm not gonna.
I'm thinking 1980.
I'm gonna go with 1980, May 23rd, 1980. You're right. God damn. It seems like it's weird to think of it being 1980. I don't know why.
Mm-hmm.
It makes sense because Stephen King, it didn't come out till 1990, like the TV show, and then this one was 2017, 2019, and they wanted it to be set in the 80s because that's when all those movies started happening. Oh yeah, oh my god, machetes, so good,
so good.
We have the funeral. Marge sees that one of Rich's planes makes it to Main Street, which was another tearjerker moment. I don't know why they kept on doing that, but then we get the title where it says welcome to Derry, chapter 1, which is such a amazing thing. We think it's done. Nope. There is a post-title scene where we flash forward to the first chapter of the movies, chapter 1.
It's 1988. 1988.
Just before, because Beverly's mom had unalived herself. We meet Beverly Marsh, and Beverly Marsh actually meets what's her name? Oh my god,
Mrs. Kirsch,
which makes so much sense why she sees Mrs. Kirsch in It Chapter 2 as an adult, because that's the person that she met. So you know how it likes to use things that people fear. Being a little kid, seeing this crazy lady being like, dead people aren't always dead here. That's definitely something that would fuck you up. Like, how amazing. I don't know why I just skewed it for you. What did you think of this last scene? I thought it was amazing, obviously.
A lot of people did. It was good. Some people might argue it's a bit unnecessary, but at the same time, it's like we've always been asking questions about Mrs. Kirsch throughout this entire run of the series. And that when does she die? Did it eat her at that point? But no, he kind of left her alive, so that we meet her at that moment. 1988. So Beverly sees her as a young kid in that, and she's the same age that she sees her 27 years later in the sequel. Only she doesn't quite. Well, obviously she didn't remember it in that because she moved away, and she's only slowly regaining her memory. Yeah.
So it uses a memory of hers that she doesn't quite remember, but it's definitely something that scared her as a child. Man, so brilliantly like connecting this. I saw a theory online that maybe as the series goes forward and it, tries to prevent its own death. This is just me telling you this theory because I think it's interesting. Is that maybe we will see a sequel to It Chapter 3 with these kids in the in-between time before, the adult thing. Because if it can maybe prevent its own death somehow, maybe in Chapter 3 of the TV series, maybe that'll lead to an alternate dimension where these kids are, haven't defeated it. And there's like things where, the possibilities of making this into its own MCU where things are connected and then moved around. Like we talk about how Doomsday from the Avengers is going to be consequences to Endgame, right? And how things are connected that way. Like maybe the consequences of things happening in the past for this are, I'm going to talk to you about a theory after this about Doomsday. Like maybe that's a way to connect the TV series, because damn, those kids are so good and they deserve another movie. Like we could maybe even see like multiple casts converge on together. I don't know. It's just an idea that was floating out there. What do you think of this type of thing where maybe things, what if it succeeds if this is going backwards? Like this is it's
but I feel like the fluidity of the show would be a little compromised by that. I feel like there is just so much like that, so many stories in relation to the creature to tell.
yeah.
That really you should just, leave it open. It's like, they want to explore this, the Bradley Gang massacre in the next series and that. So,
Yeah. And then the Ironworks.
The Ironworks explosion in 1908, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I said, we'll probably see more of the family members and that is specifically targeting and that, but it's like Marge said, it's like that's somebody else's fight. That's, it's not ours anymore.
Oh my God.
So I'd like them to leave it open to possibilities in that, new characters, old characters returning in that, but it's going to be interesting. The fact that the creature is aware of its own death, it's aware that it could possibly help, to prevent it, is interesting. We'll see what happens.
Exactly. What are your hopes for season 2? That there is a season 2?
There is, yes, there's, I mean, like, that hope has already been fulfilled in that because, like, the success of the show has just been stupendous. I don't think anybody else is really talking about anything else going on.
The only other thing that's happening that people are talking about is Pluribus, from what I know.
Yep. And this is I think this is still drawing a wider audience, though. But, what am I hoping for in season 2? I don't know. More linkages to do, other Stephen King works, maybe a few lesser known stuff. Who knows?
More turtles.
I'd like to see more turtles in that. Maybe at some point, and maybe by season 3, maybe we'll finally actually get to meet Matatron.
I mean, I would love to meet Maturin. I would also love to see more connections to like the wider Stephen King universe. I really do hope that they start connecting this to other things. And I hope that I can't imagine that, what's his name? Mike,
Hanlon?
No, Mike Flanagan has not talked to Andy Muschietti about Stephen King. I can't imagine that they haven't. And if they can get together and, make beautiful Stephen King babies in TV series and movies,
multiple like arcing series and that span, like, it's like who do you think is best going to handle the Dark Tower? Because like they're gonna bring in. You think Flanagan can do it?
100%. Also, he's the one attached to it.
Okay.
So as a series.
I didn't know. Okay.
I don't know if they're going to actually move forward or they're going to move it to a TV movie again, which I hope they don't. Although the movie was interesting because it was a sequel, although people didn't know that unless you read all the books because it was a new cycle. The movie confused.
But they called it the Dark Tower. That's why people were so confused. It's like,
it was so confusing.
Yeah.
When I sat there in theaters watching that movie, I was just like, what is happening in this movie? There are things that are changing and I don't understand why. And then they moved later and you see the horn. You're like, what? Why does he have that? You're not supposed to get that for another 4 books. Like, it just, I don't know. Anyway, we don't need to talk about that movie. It was interesting. It was not great. Hopes for chapter 2, same as you. I love the connections. I hope they do more. I love the deeper, like, the deeper building of the mythos. I like that they tapped into every little thing. I want to see more of Rose's like people, or maybe even the other how they did the Chud ritual in the second one. I would love to see maybe more myths around what they, because I feel like there's not just Rose's people, right? Not the children of Matern. I think there's got to be other people there. Like, it was 1,000 years, right? That they were sort of, that he was there. And there's got to be like, I don't know. I just want more. And I know they haven't started filming, and they'll probably start filming next year, which means we won't see it for another 2 years.
Yeah.
The cycle.
I don't know. I feel this could get a bump up in that. If the success of this has anything to do with like the production schedule, they might be filming like in early like 2026 for a fall Christmas release, for the next season.
Could you imagine?
right?
I don't know. The special effects are just so intense and good. But you never know. Don't make people crunch for special effects. I would rather just get it when it's good.
Yeah,
Yeah. That's it. We're done. Thank you for watching our coverage of It. Welcome to Derry. This is our first series that we did multiple episodes. Maybe we'll do weekly episodes for some of the shorter series we watch. I do want to talk about Pluribus eventually. Maybe we're supposed to be done for this year with this episode. This is supposed to be our last one. We'll see what Pluribus does to me in 2 weeks. We might have to talk about
Boxing Day will be the last episode. So.
Oh my God. That's also when the next release of Stranger Things happens. And then we have Stranger Things ending on New Year's Eve. There's a lot that I want to talk about, and I know everyone wants to talk about. We'll see. The holidays
I think
are very
you and
busy.
I should definitely see if we can squeeze out an hour to talk about Pluribus.
It's an important series, especially with its critique on AI, as some might say. We don't need to talk about it here, but yeah, I want to talk about Pluribus. I want to talk about it, Stranger Things, because that's going to be really interesting when it ends. But we'll talk about Stranger Things in the new year. Pluribus maybe in a couple weeks. We'll see.
Sure.
Or maybe next week. We'll see. Thank you guys for watching our coverage. If you have any theories, maybe we missed something, which is possible. There's a lot that there is happening in this.
We definitely missed stuff.
Comment below. Send us an email. Contact us on social media. We'd love to hear it. As well, always, I'm Eric. This is Hawk. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. We will see you sometime soon. Goodbye.
Bye.
Well, that's it for us this week on Geeks with Kids. If you want to get a hold of us, you can send us an email at podcast@geekswithkids.ca. And don't forget to like us on Facebook at facebook.com/geekswithkids. Follow us on Twitter at geekswithkidscn. Check out our pics on Instagram at geekswithkids. And you can find all of this good stuff on our website at www.geekswithkids.ca. So if you like what you hear, why don't you hit that subscribe button and leave us a comment. This podcast can be found on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, Stitcher, YouTube, and your favorite podcasting app. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time.